Thank you for tuning in and pressing play. This is the URC Space, a place where we unbox our lives one blank space at a time. My name is Nash at Nash Speaks Live on Facebook, Instagram, and yes, on Twitter. And I'm so glad to have you in conversation with me today. Today's episode is going to touch on the topic of knowing when it is time to simply walk away and embrace your happy. Phoenix is here with me in the studio, and he's going to be helping us kind of figure out what does that even mean. And, well, I guess together we'll get to do that this week with our unboxing conversations. So welcome to Season 2, Episode 3, The Almost Famous Space. Speaking of Twitter, I mentioned that in the opening, but I also want to give a little funny story with you. One of our faithful listeners here on the show, Sierra, and also a friend to the show, because she was one of our guests in Season 1, in our very first season. And she said, so far, Nash, my biggest takeaway from your episode last week, The Desert Space, is that you have a Twitter. I guess Twitter is not really used as much as it used to be. I remember 10 years ago, Twitter was like the social media platform. You know what I'm saying? I feel like it's Instagram now today, or I would put all my eggs into the Instagram basket. I feel like it's Instagram now. I don't feel like Facebook is what it used to be, and neither is Twitter. But Twitter has been a very good tool for the URC Space and Nash Speaks Live, and I'm going to tell you why. Another faithful listener here on the show, friend to the show, faithful supporter, my twin brother, Lavelle. Hey, what's up, bro? He really came through with the alley-oop and assist. So I, as you know, mentioned Mandisa's birthday last week here on the show. I then went to, tag her in multiple stories on my Instagram. And then I also made a post about it on Instagram and on my Facebook page. And I just didn't hear anything back from Mandisa. And it's very odd because in previous interactions with Mandisa, she's always responded to me. And so I just was like, well, Mandisa, do you remember me? So Vel really came through for me. He got onto the cosign bandwagon on the Twitter, and Mandisa saw it. And then I sent some tweets to Mandisa, and she replied to not just me, but to him as well. And Mandisa said that she thinks that we need a new picture that's not so blurry, because I think the last time we met was almost 9 years ago, Mandisa, or the first time we met was about 9 years ago when you were at the Women of Faith conference in DC, where I happened to be volunteering. I'm really excited to also get a non-blurry picture with you, Mandisa. I hope you had a great birthday. I also am looking forward to maybe potentially having you here on the show where we can talk about your upcoming book or your book that is coming out. I'm sorry, Mandisa. I promise I am a Mandisa super fan, but I totally am not keeping up with the release date. But I know that it's called Out of the Dark, and I'm ready to unbox it with you. So we'd love to have you here on the show. And thank you, Vel, for just being a faithful listener, friend, and bro all the time. Much love. So let's dive into today's episode. And actually, Mandisa, I was thinking about you when I was writing the script for this episode too, because I remember when I read your book, your other book, Idolize, your first book, that you had mentioned how you didn't want to get to your 30th birthday and ask yourself, I wonder what would have happened if I auditioned for American Idol. And you were at your 29th birthday, and, Idol had happened to raise the age of 29, and you went for it. And, of course, the rest is history. We now know you are a household name, my sister. But I was thinking about that dream that you had, and really, where does a dream come from? And, how does it start? How do we find it? Do we discover it? Does it discover us? Do we unearth it? No matter whatever the dream is and how it comes to us, I feel that the biggest thing that we can do to any dream that we're given is to protect it at all cost. And I'm going to share a story with you that happened to me in the 8th grade. And I don't wish this on anyone. So I was in eighth grade, and there was this project that we had to do on. It was a book. It wasn't a book report, but it was like a book report like kind of situation. We had to write a paper on a utopia, and like, at the time I didn't know what a utopia was. Once I found out what a utopia was, I concluded that I was going to do my project on cruise ships. Now, because I was like, my utopia is it's going to be a floating utopia. So at that time, the largest ship in the world was the Queen Mary 2. And I did a lot of research on the Queen Mary 2. I talked about it. I believe it was featured on Oprah recently too, like right when it came out. So I had all this, recent data. And of course, this was back before we had internet in the home, or on, God forbid, we didn't even have cell phones. So, you just use whatever you could use. And I remembered my mom and my mom having this TV with the VCR, and you could record from the TV. So I had this VHS tape in there, and I was recording all these little snippets from Oprah, all these snippets from, and then I hooked the TV to the DVD player up. And then I started putting in these DVDs. I had about like 2 or 3 DVDs because they weren't that popular then. They were growing in popularity, but they weren't that popular then. And so I had like 1 or 2 DVDs from some cruise lines that I got, and I was recording some from those DVDs as well. And I compiled this VHS tape. I wrote this amazing paper on the Queen Mary 2 and it being my utopia. And then I had this composition notebook. And in this composition notebook, again, back in the day, I would go to the local library and I would print out pictures of all of the different ships that each cruise line owned and operated. So one, section of this composition notebook was just for one cruise line. Another section of this composition notebook was for another cruise line. So I had all the different cruise lines, all the different ships, was able to kind of, put some luggage tags in there that I had, a few pictures from when I was out on the high seas. And it was just kind of like, people have vision boards. I guess before vision boards were a thing, I had a vision book. So just like we started this, this whole podcast in the vision space last season, vision is just something I'm really just tapped into. And so I really just felt like if I had this before my eyes, that I would really embrace, enthrall myself and really absorb this dream that I had. So I was contemplating if I was going to bring this composition notebook in, because I did spend so many hours, going to the library, walking to the library, walking home from the library, cutting out the pictures, getting the glue sticks, gluing the pictures in, making sure, handwriting all of the things in there. I mean, it was really just, it still is. I have 2 of the composition notebooks still, just really immaculately compiled. And so I went to school to give my presentation, and I, shared the highlights of my paper. And then I said, and now I would like to talk about some of the ships that I hope to frequent one day. So I started opening up the composition notebook, and I say, and this ship is owned by so-and-so, and the godmother was so-and-so, and it's this long, and it weighs this much, and its home port is this port, and it sails to and from these particular ports are called. I mean, it was really bad. I was a ship nerd. I said ship with the P. Thank you. And so, I went on with my presentation, and I showed some excerpts of the video, and the class really loved it and all that good stuff. My teacher really loved what I put together, and she gave me A+, loved it. Went home that day feeling just really excited. Like, oh my goodness, I shared my dream with my entire class that I'm going to go work on a cruise ship one day, and I'm going to, sail the high seas and travel the world. Well, I forgot that composition notebook in my classroom. And I got home and I realized it immediately. And for some reason, I had such a calm and a peace over me, like, oh, it's okay. I'll just get it tomorrow and it's not going to be a problem and all that good stuff. So that's what I thought. I got to school the next day, and I was reunited with my composition notebook, but it was in a different state than when I left it. There was a big FUCK on the front of the composition notebook written by some of my peers. And throughout each of the pages, there were scrabbled marks all over the ships, all over the words. Things were blotted out. Essentially, it was just vandalized and destroyed. And that was one of the most crushing moments I had. And I think then I learned I can't tell everybody what I'm doing. And I don't think you should either. I think it's good for us to have dreams and goals and all of that good stuff, but everybody does not need to know everything. And Mariah, I hear you come into today's conversation. I have your book here with me, right here in my hand, The Meaning of Mariah Carey. And I want to actually talk about the lyrics to a song that you don't necessarily like, or I think you like it now, but you said you didn't like it, and that's Hero. One of your number one hits, by the way, from the Dream Lover album, 1993. I'm a fan. And I just want to say thank you for writing that song. I know that song was originally supposed to be for Gloria Estefan, and you didn't like it because you said it sounded too schmaltzy, and it was for a movie soundtrack. And Sony Tony, as what's his name, Derek Jeter called him, said that, was it Derek Jeter? Yeah, it was Derek Jeter. As Derek Jeter called him, said, no, this song is for you, and you wound up recording it. But I just want to say thank you for the lyrics. There's a portion of the lyrics of that song that actually helped me just kind of finish a part of my book that I'm getting ready to soon release. So that part of your song where it says, Lord knows dreams are hard to follow, but don't let anyone tear them away. Hold on, there will be tomorrow. In time, you'll find the way. And I just reflect on your story too, Mariah. And I remembered, I felt a little crushed for you when you were saying how, you were 18 and you graduated high school and you were like, I don't have a record deal. And you felt just so you didn't make it because you didn't have a record deal by the time you were 18. And you went from doing the coat check, Sports on Broadway, to becoming the best-selling female vocalist artist of all time. I think that's really just a testament of just having that stick-to-itness. And like your song says, if you get down on your knees at night and pray to the Lord, He is going to make it happen. So speaking of dreams, it takes grit. It takes a lot of intentional action. You don't get there by happen chance, And I think for me, when I had that experience in 8th grade, I realized, okay, maybe everyone doesn't need to know what's going on with me. I'm going to continue moving forward because, as we know here on the show, that's the only gear in life that matters. But I'm going to move forward with my mouth a little bit more quiet than it was probably a few steps ago. So I want to go into the subject of kind of the basis of our episode today, and that is looking at the life of Kim Hill. Now, when I say the name Kim Hill, does that ring a bell to you? It might not. For me, it didn't. I had to do some research for this episode. I listened to the Black Eyed Peas, and maybe if I say the Black Eyed Peas, not the beans, greens, potatoes, you name it, not that Black Eyed Peas that we're going to be having next month on the Thanksgiving table. Bless the Lord, Lord willing. But I'm thinking about the actual singing group, the pop group. The Black Eyed Peas. Kim Hill was one of the original members, the featured vocalist of the group. And so before there was Fergie Ferg, who we know Fergie, the Duchess, right? London Bridge is falling down or something like that. I forgot how the song goes, Fergie. But it was Kim. And she too was a dreamer. Just like you, Mariah, she dreamed of making it big and becoming a recording artist. She's originally from upstate New York. And hey, Uncle Dave, Aunt Misha, my family lives up there in upstate New York. Shout outs to y'all. And one of her dreams was to make it on a TV show that she enjoyed watching each week, which was Soul Train. So before she could take to the stage before millions, she first had to find her own voice. And this was one that her mom was trying to help her craft. She was kind of caught in this dichotomy of she had, her white friends, she had her black friends, and she was always code switching between the two. And this one year, her mom was asking her, where is your voice, Kim? Because she's like, Mom, I want to have a party for my white friends. I want to have a party for my black friends. And her mom was like, no, I'm a single mom. You actually better thank the Lord that I'm even having a party for you. You can have one party and your white and your black friends can come together and we can just do it like that. but she didn't want her two worlds to intersect, or her two worlds to clash or meet like that, which she was ever finding her voice, ever developing her voice. And she was lost between those two worlds, it seems like. But I think to some degree, each and every one of us code switch. And by the way, I don't know if I need to define that. Code switching essentially is when, if you're in one group or one setting, you carry yourself, present yourself a certain way. You then go to another setting and you present yourself in a completely different way. So, for example, I will talk to a judge a whole lot differently than I talk to my best friend. So that's code switching right there. But, there's a lot of intersectional levels with it that a lot of people unbox, I should say. We're not going to, get ourselves busy in unboxing that here on the show. But she was really trying to find her own voice. And so she took her ever developing voice that she was finding and her dream, and she went to Los Angeles. Where else do you go when you're trying to make it big in music? You go to LA, right? Or New York. Mariah, you went to New York. Mandisa, we know you went for the audition down in Atlanta and then the audition for Idol in Chicago. So wherever it is, but LA is one of those big, come to me and be a thriving artist, or a struggling artist, as they may say. But anyway, she was landing some awesome opportunities when she got to LA, Kim. And one of the opportunities she landed on was she was cast as an extra on the hit TV single, Living Single. On the hit TV show, did I say TV single? I'm sorry, on the hit TV show, Living Single. And I love how all worlds kind of intersect here on the show. That song, that theme song from that particular show, Living Single, was one of the main bases of inspiration for our theme song for season 2 here on the URC space. So kudos, and we bow to you, Queen Latifah. Yes, madame, we do. So then one day, she's getting all these castings, and she's being cast as an extra. And then one day, she did a BMI showcase, and she was leaving her voice for all to hear, as she says. When she did that BMI showcase, a kid walked up to her afterwards and proposed that they collaborate with music interest in mind. And he said, I write songs, I do music, I've got these 2 guys who are with me, I think you should join us. And then boom, the Black Eyed Peas were born. By the way, that kid that walked up to her happened to be none other than Mr. will.i.am, and we know will.i.am. So they went on to grow in success. They didn't become stars overnight. They were growing in success. They were laying their tracks down. They were doing all the things that they needed to do, before they reached that next level. And building a brand takes time. I'm ever reminded, I was watching an episode, I was watching an interview with Oprah Winfrey, and she was saying how so many people want their brand to be built overnight, not understanding that it is so many different hours and so much time that you invest in just your craft, your art, your dream that really, really brings what it is that you've always envisioned or imagined, or even beyond that, to fruition. My Aunt Dawn gave me a book a couple years ago for my birthday called Outlier by Malcolm Gladwell. And I know if I say that, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and you might know where I'm going with this. But how does one become an outlier? Is it biological influences? Is there some unspoken innate trait in us that really helps us shine and thrive? How does someone like Mariah Carey go from swinging on a swing set over a garbage trash field to then, living in, the penthouse suites of, downtown New York? That just doesn't happen overnight. How does someone like Mandisa go from, working at Lifeway, barely having enough money to pay her bills? She's got a tail light out, almost getting a ticket the same day that she is, seen before millions on American Idol, to then becoming a K-Love, Dove, and Grammy Award winning artist. That just doesn't happen overnight. And I love the way Oprah Winfrey put it. She said, you don't just see a sign for American Idol auditions, you turn in, you audition, and then you happen to win the whole thing. Everyone just doesn't get a Kelly Clarkson moment. You get that Kelly Clarkson moment because you were singing in the dives, you were singing in the this, you were, singing for the drunks, you were singing for the sober, you were singing at the bar mitzvahs, at the weddings, at the senior homes, at all of these different places. You kept perfecting, you kept investing, and all of those things kind of build you towards getting that next level and building your brand. And it's just something that just really just encourages me and reminds me, like, everything takes time. Mariah, like the song said, love takes time. Okay, so the Black Eyed Peas, they were in that process. They were, really laying their tracks down, growing in their success. They were on tour. They were opening for musical groups like No Doubt, which we know Gwen Stefani from No Doubt, Outkast, we know Andre 3000 and Big Boy from there, which, hey, by the way, Big Boy, I haven't heard any solo stuff from you lately. Not that I'm searching for it, because I don't intentionally listen to you, but I did like that collaboration you did with Fantasia some years ago. Just a sick beat on that one. I really keep my ears open for beats when I'm listening to music, and I really like the mix you did on that one. And then of course Mr. Slim Shady himself, Eminem. So they as a group, they're opening for these, these are some pretty well-known musical artists. They're not like Joe Schmo, from the backwoods, which there wouldn't be anything wrong with opening for Joe Schmo from the backwoods. But I'm just saying, they were, on their way up and up. And as a group, they landed a record deal on Interscope Records. And there, Kim's dream was about to come true, because when they got that record deal, they had an opportunity to perform on the very show that she wished and dreamed of performing on. And that was the Soul Train TV show. And that was when everything started changing in Kim's world, in the Black Eyed Peas world. Enter now kind of the crux of what we're really going to be double clicking on when we are looking at when we know it's time to quit. So have you ever been, in a transition of sorts where you're noticing that things were not how they once were? And maybe in that knowing things are not how they once were, an idea may cross your mind of perhaps, or asking a question, is it time to quit? I want to read something from you, a quote that I saw on LinkedIn from Susan David, PhD. She says, rather than winners never quit, I prefer a real winner knows when to quit and when to grit. Grit needs to hold hands with the changing context of our lives. We need to lift the stigma of quitting so it can be rightfully seen as adaptive and embraced with grace and dignity. So I love that. And she went on to add a little bit more to that, saying, let's not overvalue grit or pressing forward no matter what. There is ample research showing that the capacity to walk away from existing goals when they no longer serve us can be courageous, smart, and strategic. The Machine wanted the group, the Black Eyed Peas, to change their style from an urban sounding hip hop group to something a little bit more mainstream, maybe more sensually appealing, a little bit more objectified. And it's interesting because when Kim was saying that in the documentary, the first song I thought of was My Humps, My Humps, My Humps, My Humps. Like, that's a very objectified, sensual song, and Fergie's, from the back and the front. I mean, like Fergie's really like, break it down, as they say in the song. And so Kim really was like, that's not what I signed up for. I have a dream. I'm a vocalist. I'm enjoying this hip hop scene. I like our urban sound. I like our urban look. I like what we're presenting before the world. This is where I want to remain. I don't want to go down a more mainstream, sensually appealing, objectified route. So where does that leave us as a group? And, that rhymed without me even trying. And that song by Mandisa and Toby Mac comes to mind, featuring Kurt Franklin as well. I don't want to gain the whole world and lose my soul, based on that verse in Mark 8:36, which says, for what does it profit a man to gain the world, the whole world, and forfeit his life in the eternal kingdom of God? Kim by then knew that her voice was firm in her decision, and she did not want to be an objectified professional. She did not want to be objectified. And I wonder if her mom's question to her from her childhood rang in her mind. Kim, where is your voice? Is this when your voice is going to be speaking out? Can you hear your voice now? She just knew it was time to walk away and let the group go on so that she could, as she says, embrace her happy. The group is on their way. They're doing, phenomenal things. They are really about to really make it big. And she's like, you know what? If this is what it costs, if this is what it's going to be, if this is what the price I need to pay in order for us to move forward as a group in this quote unquote success, then I don't want it. And Kim, I'm giving you some we're giving you applause here in the studio, Kim, because that takes you really have to just be so secure in yourself. I'm talking about this a little bit in my book because, Kim, I relate 100% with your story because I was in a very similar situation where I had to realize, am I going to go back to this? This is starting to look different. This is starting to sound different. This is not aligned with the vision and dream that I originally had for myself. I think this might be my way out. This might be time to quit. And, finding your voice. So she just knew it was time to walk away and let the group go on. And she let the group go on, and the Black Eyed Peas would go on to sell millions of records. They would win countless of awards, which P.S. I remembered in was it 2009 or 2010 when I Got a Feeling came out. They wound up winning the Grammy for Best Pop Album over Kelly Clarkson's All I Ever Wanted, but that's okay. I still thought My Life Was Stuck Without You was a really big hit that year, but we won't get salty here on the Black Eyed Peas, will we? Okay, so they would go on to also be dubbed as one of Oprah's favorite groups without Kim, but with Fergie on the featured vocals. Now, Kim says that, there's no bad blood between her or the group. She's really good with will.i.am, and her and will.i.am had a very special moment, which I'm going to leave the link for the whole documentary on the New York Times of Kim, featuring Kim's story in today's episode description. You'll find it in the Unboxed Goods section, and I'm going to leave that moment for you to enjoy because I don't want to give it away. I thought it was very heartwarming to me. And she says that there's no bad blood between her and the group, or even Fergie. She said her and the Fergie never even met, never crossed paths. And she said, she just wanted to really, clear the air that there's narrative that was trying to be painted that, the black woman couldn't get the group off the ground. So they had to kick the black girl out and put the white girl in and make sure she was singing about her humps. And Kim was like, no, that's not what happened at all. I was just ready to embrace my happy. So, now that she's embraced her happy, and I would say I'm ever embracing my happy every day. My goodness, before I came into the studio today, I'm high on life right now. That's all I'm going to say, in the best way possible. Not in the dating space, but in every other space of my life. Everything is really going, God is just having his way, and I'm thankful for that. But what's your happy? Let's unbox this question right now. What is your happy? I was recently on a virtual date, and one of the questions that came up to me was, when will you realize you've made it? When do you feel like you've made it? And I was like, I feel like I've made it when I no longer have to work for someone else, when I can make my own schedule, create my own schedule, and simply just create and be fully creative. That's when I know that I've made it. So that's me, that's my happy place. But I want you to really take some time to discover, what is your happy place, and are you there? And if you're not there, are you making the next best decision, the next best step to get you there? I'm taking this from, Kat Harris, you referenced this on your podcast, The Refined Collective, this quote from T.D. Jakes, we are all one decision away from living a completely different life. Whether that be good or whether that be bad, we are all one decision away. But I want you to embrace your happy, and I want you to really dig deep on this one and discover what that one happy goal is and craft and create a plan that's going to get you there. Because I know that you can. And I know you can make it there. Success and fame, I think, can be great. Maybe your happy is I want to have a record deal by the time I'm out of high school. It seems like that's what yours was, Mariah. Or, I want to audition for American Idol before I'm 30. That was yours, Mandisa. I'm getting ready to turn 30 in a couple months, and I've just been reflecting on, people make 30 this big, like everyone's like, oh my goodness, like it's going to be your big birthday now. Like now you're going to be 30. Like that's a big one. And I challenge that question and I say, well, why is 30 so big? Why wasn't 29 big? And why wasn't 28 and 27? What makes 30 so special? Is it just because it's another decade? Because at the end of the day, when we look at it, it's just another year that's added. So if I'm not celebrating and making 28 and 29 as special, why am I waiting for 30 to be so special? I think for me, there were certain things that I put in place that I wanted to have accomplished by 30. Yes. But I knew that in order to accomplish them by 30, I had to do some things when I was in my 20s. So, it's just like it all adds up to and builds to a culminating moment. But I don't want to get us all caught up into the norms of society and what society says that we should and shouldn't embrace and see as big or small or whatever. But whatever that happy place is for you, I want to encourage you. The 15th of October is coming up. If you don't do a monthly meeting, I'd encourage you to have a monthly meeting with yourself, crafting a plan for you to get to that place where you can walk away from the grit and simply embrace your happy. But no matter whatever your happy is, whether it is to be rich and famous and have your name in lights, I want you also to find yourself in a happy place where you can also find inner peace and lasting joy. Because I will tell you this, problems never get away from any of us. And no matter how famous or infamous we become in this life, at the end of the day, we should never want to gain the whole world and lose our souls. I'm talking a little bit about my journey of embracing my happy and walking away and giving a little bit of a book preview to you. I joined my friend Nolan on his podcast, A Million Dreams. His episode 4 has went live and is available wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm going to leave a link to it today also in the episode description. But I'm talking about when it's time to grit and when it's time to quit, and giving you a little bit more detail that I didn't even share with you here on our podcast about what really happened with the whole kerfluffle and ending, and giving you a little bit of a greater taste of what you can expect in my book. So make sure you're following him on Instagram and make sure you are also subscribed to his podcast. I'm going to leave information. And Nolan's been here on the show. He's a friend of our show too. He was here with us season 1. So he's a really good friend of mine on the air, off the air. And I hope you enjoyed the episode that we were able to collaborate with this week. So, wow. That is the Almost Famous space. Thank you for tuning in today. Next week, we are going to completely pivot and shift, and we are going to go into the world of saying no. Mariah, what's that song you say? That's a no-no. In the boundary space we will be, where we're going to be exploring the thresholds of our peace, which can help us lead a pure path to embracing what our happy truly is. But until we resume our conversations then, I want you to remember, you are cute. Stay free, my friend. And Phoenix and I, we will chat with you next week.